Hello, this is the Love of Wisdom podcast, and I'm your host, Anthony Pensa. In today's episode, we're talking about pragmatism. And what is pragmatism, and how do we use it in our day-to-day life? What is the importance of it? Well, we have this idea of pragmatism that began in the early 1870s, actually, that came from philosophers such as Charles Peirce. And we have other famous philosophers that talk about very similar ideas that it came to terms with various philosophers in the past who developed the idea of philosophy that we use today. Now, what's so important about pragmatic philosophy, and who gives a shit about it, right? Who cares about it? What's important about it in my life, and how can I use it on my day-to-day basis, right? How do I make money with it? Well, I don't know necessarily if I can answer all these questions for you, but I will tell you that pragmatic philosophy itself is an important philosophical idea that applies to practical ideas and theologies, right? The ideas and the notions of ideologies that exist, not theologies, within our society, within our world today. And how do we come to use these ideas? The ideas of justice, the ideas of ethics, right? The ideas of perception. How do these things come to our life? What's the importance of it all? Now, when we look at our world and we look at the people around us, it's important that we realize that philosophy itself does offer a lot of practical alternatives. We have ancient Greek philosophers such as, right, we have the Stoics such as Seneca. We also have people such as Marcus Aurelius, famous Roman. He was originally a Roman, he was considered a philosopher, but he also was a king during the Roman Empire. And then we also have people later on, further in the future, that people will consider as kings now, that have lived in the political office and have lived in other areas and control and dominate a lot of society and the Western world and other places. But look at it like this, right? We live in an era where we think of philosophy as some form of ideology, some form of study. But what is the relevance of people like that? What is Friedrich Nietzsche or other philosophers have to do with my life? Well, look at it like this way. A lot of these people curved the path that led into a lot of the documents and a lot of the founding beliefs and core values that people today use. A lot of these ideologies from the three major philosophers that changed society, from people such as Lao Tzu, Confucius, Socrates, the Buddha. They had revolutionized their society and the world around them. And a lot of their ideas are very pragmatic and very usable in today's society. Now, many of you may not be Socrates, right? You may not even know who Buddha or Socrates or Lao Tzu are, but you do realize that a lot of these ideologies that are set up in your society had come from a lot of beliefs and a lot of interpretations of texts that have been founded in, for example, the United States Constitution and other ideologies that came from individuals such as John Locke, James Madison, right, Benjamin Franklin, and other major contributors in the United States of America and other leading countries, and how they came to develop various laws in their society. Now, a lot of the philosophy that we use today, right, we use a lot of philosophy such as ethics and logic in our own day-to-day life without even realizing it. But what's really more important is that we can take these ideologies from a lot of these philosophers and apply them in our lives. We could take their theories and put them into practice. We can take the essence of our reality and put it into subjection. We can see with our own eyes through our own perception, and we can question the reality about it. Now, a lot of pragmatic philosophers had actually seen this. You had, like I mentioned earlier, about the famous philosopher Charles Peirce, who denied a lot of the philosophical teachings from philosophers such as Immanuel Kant, and then you also have David Hume and further other philosophers that actually spoke about this idea of, right, this tautology of the mind and the body. This idea that we have the mind and the body as distinctive beings. But he was able to take these ideologies and systematically, he referred to it as rubbish philosophy, and use that towards creating a more practical nature. Now, there's a lot of particular different examples that are applied in psychology. For example, there's this one particular psychology that I think is interesting. It's called neuro-linguistic programming. It's actually a program called NLP that, for example, famous speakers such as Anthony or Tony Robbins speaks about. And then you have other famous psychologists that speak about these ideas on YouTube. But what I want to think about, and I want to take it to perspective, is the idea of what is it about these ideas that make them true? What makes them relevant in our life? How do we come to determine what's important and what's not important? Well, a lot of it's based on feeling. A lot of it's based on how we look at things and how we perceive those things are relevant to our lives, right? A lot of us look at our lives and we wonder, what's the point of doing these things? Why? How do I enjoy my lives? What are my hobbies? What are the things that give me satisfaction, pleasure? Essentially, overall happiness for all human beings. And for each person, that is a unique and different thing. For me, for example, a lot of it comes down to educating the world about philosophy. And I think what's really important that a lot of people don't realize is that philosophy has a deeper impact in our lives than we realize. There is a lot of ideologies and a lot of people today who are working very hard and strenuous to develop organizations and leadership in the world around us today that use a lot of philosophical ideologies to be implemented in Congress, in the United States, and throughout other locations, right? Legislative branches, or the legislative branch, the executive branch, the judicial branch in the United States, but legislative laws in the US and other legislative laws and branches of government throughout the world. But a lot of these ideas are radical because they're liberating, and a lot of these theories and thoughts, once applied, become transformative. And that's the amazing thing about philosophy. People don't realize this, right? I have a shirt on that says Friedrich Nietzsche, and he's a famous quote that he says in German, which is, "What does not kill me makes me stronger." Or I believe the quote is, "What does kill me does not make me stronger." But the thing is, there's so many ways of perceiving that and looking at it. We can look at it one way or we can look at it another way. That's just a t-shirt. Think about this more importantly. What is it in your life that you value? What is it that you see as important? Right? And why is it that you see that that thing is important? Have you actually thought about in your mind? Have you written down on paper what it is that makes you happy? What things you value? Your goals, right? Your opportunities in life. Have you ever thought about all the things that are given to us as human beings? We only live on this planet. Some of us 80, 90, 100 years plus, but we're all going to die. And with that notion of death comes that reality of objectivity, our subjective experience, and how we apply that in our real world. Now, a lot of pragmatic philosophers have taken a lot of these ideas of the body and the body and the mind, and actually applied it on a grander scheme. They've taken ideas from Immanuel Kant, and they've taken ideas from previous philosophers, right? Such as, if you look at the very beginning, the pre-Socratics, Heraclitus, speaking of all this water, and that water flows like a river around us, and we can never step in the same river twice, and the idea of atoms and the idea of souls and these things being true. And we have actually came to rationalize in our mind that these things cannot be true, that atoms cannot have souls, that atoms are just indivisible, right, subatomic particles that exist. And we have quantum physics and quantum mechanics and other sciences around us. We have physics and engineering. We have theoretical physics, or more importantly, we have applied physics with the notion of quantum engineering, or quantum physics that applies to our reality in our world today, that we use on a day-to-day basis without even realizing it. We have people such as Nikola Tesla, who have invented great uses of energy that have transformed the world, and very few people even know him as an engineer. Very few people have even heard his name or even know who Nikola Tesla is. But these ideas of pragmatic beliefs, of practical applications of information, it's so relevant in today, and it could be found in so many walks of life, in different societies, and different uses of the world. It's application. It's doing the things that we say. It's being involved and applying the theories and the thoughts. So I want you guys to do this for me. I want you guys today to apply the theories and the thoughts that are taught today by me, to teach you. Do the things that you like. Live your life. Live in the moment. But most importantly, be rational. Develop critical thinking. Read. Learn, go outside, do things, write down goals, have an initiative and have a goal in life, right? It may not be philosophy, but if you see the essence of looking at theories and applying them in your lives, or more importantly, just applying the things that you enjoy in life, your life will be a lot more, people would say beautiful, will be a lot more fulfilling, and you will have a happier life overall through time. But it is a change, and it is a challenge that many people are not willing to perceive and to pursue in their life. So when you look at it in essence, a lot of these philosophers who live today, including Charles Peirce and other philosophers in the past, even Seneca, and you look at people like I mentioned, Heraclitus and other pre-Socratics, up until the most postmodern 21st century philosophers, and how they looked at their situations and applied it in the real world. Now, again, my name is Anthony Pensa, and this is the Love of Wisdom podcast. If you guys have any questions, any comments, please leave them below. Please subscribe to my channel. Again, it's the Love of Wisdom. Please subscribe and please leave a comment. Tell me what you guys like. Tell me what you guys want to see and what you guys want to hear about in philosophy and how it's important and relevant in your life, right? Because I want to know. I want to know what you guys think about philosophy, and I want to have a discussion. I want to have a live discussion with you guys. So just to break up a little bit what we're talking about in this video, we discussed a lot about what philosophy is. What's the importance of philosophy? What pragmatism is, different philosophers such as Charles Peirce. We talked about Immanuel Kant. We talked about Friedrich Nietzsche. We spoke about the world around us and other ideas, and we covered a lot of aspects in relationship to theories and the application of theories within the judicial, the legislative, right, and the executive branches of the United States, and how we could apply a lot of these theories. I also mentioned about James Madison, about Benjamin Franklin, right? I mentioned about other famous philosophers that exist. More importantly, it's important that we reason and rationalize that it's our lives and that we're in control, and that we should apply what we learn in our day-to-day life, and to question the reality and the world around us. So we're not accepting of divine beings such as God or other things without having sufficient evidence to come to that conclusion. Now, I do want to mention that there are a lot of people, or some people that have watched my channel, that are religious, and I do want to say to you that I am not here to argue and to debate about whether there is or is not a God. I'm here solely to educate and give people the knowledge. If people would like to debate with me, I'm more than happy to debate, either live on YouTube or in person on my channel at The Love of Wisdom, and I'd like to have a discussion with you all. Please leave a comment and subscribe below on this side, or I believe it's this side, on my videos for future videos. Again, if you haven't already, and by the way, like I mentioned before in my previous video, I will be launching a clothing line again, and just to give you guys a heads up again, it will be again within about a year or so to have me perform, right, or to fulfill all the obligations that people want in terms of my stash, particularly, my clothing line. So thank you all for watching. I appreciate your comments. Again, this is Anthony Pensa, and hope you guys have a beautiful day.